and a lot of people expressed interest in the Independent, and they were raising money through city backers. And this was a time, it was the sort of, this was when the city was booming. There was a lot of money around. It was the sort of height of what we called Yuppiedom. There was a sort of, the boisterous economy of the kind of peak Thatcher years was there, and there was a sort of general sense of things could be done. People could. It was sort of, again, it was before the sort of dot-com boom, but it was a boom of entrepreneurs, and certainly in the sense of breaking the deadlock over newspapers. And what happened, the thing that transformed the Independent from a kind of good idea, but wasn't really about to be put into practice, was when early in 1986, Rupert Murdoch moved the entire production works of News International from Fleet Street to a new print works at Wapping, which had been kept very secret, completely secret. And overnight he made this move to put all his papers into this Wapping fortress. That they asked the union members to sign new contracts linked to be able to use new technology. And there was immediately there was a massive industrial dispute with picketing outside the print works every night. All the journalists were offered the opportunity to go and work in the new Wapping print works, but many of them decided that was not for them. They didn't want to be associated with a union strike busting, union busting enterprise. They were dubious slightly about Murdoch anyway, and they didn't want to go and work behind this sort of barbed wire fortress barricaded by the pickets. And they were also, some of them were quite wary of new technology. And a lot did take the Murdoch shilling and went to work there because, there were people that had livelihoods and families to support, and they couldn't just sort of go off onto something new. But a lot of those journalists, either then or quite soon afterwards, decided that they would take a gamble with the Independent. And that was one of the key things. And the fact that you then had a core of sort of very respectable Times and Sunday Times journalists come to join the Independent acted as an incentive and a spur to a lot of other journalists who said, well, if they can do it, well, maybe we could take that gamble. So it was it created a hub, it created a nucleus, and it sort of set the ball rolling. So suddenly, almost overnight, Andreas and Matthew and Stephen had a kind of a much larger pool of quite talented journalists to draw on. So you had people like Oliver Gilley, who was a long-standing medical editor of the Sunday Times, Peter Wilby, who was the education editor of the Sunday Times, Sarah Helm, who was a very respected writer for the Sunday Times. You had the entire, in those days, and this again is a historical point, newspapers had labour desks, labour correspondents that covered the activities of the unions and workplace matters. The Times had a three-strong labour desk. There was a Labour editor, a Labour correspondent, a Labour reporter, Donald McIntyre, David Felton and Barry Clement. And because they didn't feel they could face their union contacts if they'd walked across the picket lines going to work at Wapping, they immediately joined the Independent en masse. So we inherited the Times Labour desk, three extremely experienced and talented journalists who all went on to play big roles in the story of the Independent.